Good evening, everyone. Hopefully, you're having a wonderful day so far. I got a good one for you today. So, our favorite Liberal leader contender, Karina Gould, decided that she'd go up against Vassy Kapelos and see how an interview with her would go. And let's just say, as usual with other Liberals, it did not pan out the way I think she thought it would. But if you like this video, please like and subscribe. And with no further ado, let's get into it.
And Karina Gould is with me here. Hi, Ms. Gould. Pleasure to have you here in studio. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having me, Vassy.
I wanted to start off on listening to different MPs as they went into caucus today, and we're sort of keeping track of who's supporting whom. I think at this point, and please do correct me if I'm wrong, you've got 2 MPs supporting you and no cabinet ministers. If your colleagues don't think you should lead the party, why should members?
Well, because, look, it's great that my caucus colleagues are coming out in support of other candidates. I think that's a good thing. I think that we need to have a vibrant party. But at the end of the day, it's the party membership that decides who the leader of the party is. And what I can tell you is that I am hearing from people right across this country who are signing up to the party for the first time or the first time in years because they're excited about my candidacy. We've had hundreds of people raise their hands to say that they want to volunteer, that have donated. You know, in the 5 days since I launched my campaign, we've almost raised $100,000, and this is from grassroots contributors. Like, I don't have the deep pockets of some of the other candidates. These are people who are donating $25 or $200 and really making a difference. So that says to me that there is momentum out there.
And I take that point, and I totally understand.
Yeah, but she asked you, why don't your colleagues think that you're ready to be leader? Nobody that you've worked with is behind you. They're all behind other people. So that says something about your ability to be PM. She keeps talking about new people that have joined the Liberal Party. Well, that's people who don't know who maybe know who you are, but they don't know how you work and how you actually are as a politician, which is incredibly concerning.
Understand what you're saying about the grassroots, but I think on the face of it also, when you see the 2 other candidates garnering support from people they've worked with for the last 5 or 10 years, and you're not, like, why would the membership not take something from that? Why aren't you getting that vote of confidence?
Well, look, as I said, like, it's totally up to my colleagues who they decide to support, but I think what I represent is something different. Somebody who is a grassroots politician, who does listen to people across this country, and who is generating hope, optimism, and excitement for the future. And so, look, it's kind of day one today, right? We've put in our official papers. We now know who the official candidates are, and we have a number of weeks now to convince the membership that, you know, we're the right person for the job, and I really believe that I am.
I've listened to you on 2 occasions since you initially.
Does anybody else look at her body posture when she talks to people and feel like she's the teacher talking to elementary school student? It really feels awkward when she's talking to people. I'm just saying, it's like a teacher talking down to an elementary student. I don't know. I just get that feeling.
Announce your candidacy say that Canadians have lost trust in the Liberal Party. What responsibility do you bear for that, given that you've been a member of cabinet since 2017?
Yeah, it's a really fair question. And honestly, it's something that I've been trying to push within the party and within caucus to say that we have to listen to Canadians. And look, I was a cabinet minister, and we have something called cabinet solidarity. So the conversations that happen in that room stay in that room. But I've, since resigned from cabinet to run in the race. And that's, one of the things that I know is that the reason why people are turning away from us is because they don't feel like we understand the issues that they're living on a day-to-day basis. And I think that, we have to listen to Canadians when it comes to questions like affordability. They're saying that things are too expensive for them right now, and we need to do a better job of responding to that. things like crime. You know, in my community, we've seen an increase in auto thefts. Now that's starting to go down, but that's not something that, you know, people in the GTA or anywhere else in the country should be experiencing. And even though, you know, we held the Auto Summit last year, I just feel like we got to the game too late. And that's something that I think we need to do a better job of.
I guess what I don't understand though is, you know, if you got to the game too late in a number of those instances, why did you keep insisting in your cabinet colleagues that that wasn't the case? Like I've done countless interviews with all of you, and every time I asked a question like that, I was told I was wrong, basically. And it's not as though you're just on the, you know, sidelines of that. You were tasked by the Prime Minister and others to be one of the, you know, leads on communication around a lot of this stuff that Canadians were continually telling you was negatively impacting affordability. What made you see the light?
Well, I think I've seen it for a while, to be honest, Vassy.
And you just couldn't say it? Is that what the argument
you know,
is?
part of my job as the House Leader was to defend the government's position. But I, you know, made very strong comments, you know, within the spaces that I was acting. But I'm here to say to Canadians that we didn't get everything right. And we didn't necessarily listen when you were asking us to. And I understand that, you know, as a Liberal Party, we have to do a better job of listening to Canadians, and listening to Canadians means actually changing some of the positions that we have and some of the policies that we have. And so that's something that I feel very strongly about. I mean, I think we talked following the Toronto St. Paul's by-election and following the by-election in the Salle-Mile. You know, Canadians in those two communities sent us a message. They were saying that we're not responding to the issues that matter to them. And I think we're in this position that we are in now with a new leadership race underway, because we have an opportunity now to show Canadians that we hear them on the issues that matter to them and show them how we're going to change our positions moving forward.
So let me ask you about a...
So pretty much she's saying the reason why she kept saying that the Liberal Party was the best thing ever, that the carbon tax was good for Canadians, that 8 out of 10 Canadians get more back than they put in, was because she got outvoted in these backroom hush-hush meetings that the Liberal Party has. But oh, no, we're trust her that she spoke out against all of her colleagues and said, no, we should listen to Canadians. Sure. If she actually said that, then after a couple of months of this, or as she saw the people she was supposed to represent get poorer and poorer and poorer, she should have either stepped down from cabinet or should have done something to show that she wasn't with the party, or that she didn't agree. Maybe even leave the Liberal Party. But no, she stood with them hand in hand and voted with the Liberal Party every step of the way, knowing that she was making her constituents' lives worse. This is the person that you're voting for. This is the person that's going to be PM and Liberal leader.
Some of those issues, and you've answered some of these questions, but I just want to get them for clarity's sake, particularly around the consumer portion of the carbon tax, because that's another one we did multiple interviews on. And specifically, I remember asking you the day the House resumed about the upcoming increase. And you said a number of things. It's a really important plank in our plan in the fight against climate change. If it were cut, a lot of these very good jobs that have been attracted to Canada are dependent on the fact that we have a price on pollution. There are real jobs at risk here. Are you now willing to put those jobs at risk?
No, because that's the industrial price on pollution. And so I think we need to keep the industrial price on pollution.
But I was asking you about the consumer price at that time.
And I'm consistent in my argument here because it is still about the industrial price on pollution. But on the consumer price on pollution, my commitment is to cancel the increase that is planned for April 1st, because until we have a plan in place to deal with the emissions that make up about 10% of Canada's emissions reductions plan, we need to keep that price but not increase it, because what we're hearing from Canadians is now is not the time to make that increase. But what I also hear from Canadians is that they care about the fight against climate change. This just isn't the vehicle in which they want to make that fight. And so one of the things that I think about a lot is how can we actually help Canadians make the choices that they want to make to reduce their emissions? And let's be clear, like, Canadians are making personal choices to reduce their emissions, but it's still too expensive to buy an electric vehicle or a hybrid. It's still too expensive, when you're paying to heat your home. So I would like to bring back the rebate and increase the rebate for EV and hybrid vehicles. I would include gas hybrids in that, because that's a way for Canadians to also reduce their emissions. And I would bring back the home energy retrofit program, and I would do it in a bigger way, because these are things that can actually help Canadians make the choices that they want to make, but that right now are just unaffordable for them.
A number of your progressive allies in
You're going to bring back the home retrofit program and also that EV incentive. You know that EV incentive only was for cars up to about $75,000. So anything more than that, you wouldn't get the incentive for. And then it was only for a small portion. So I think off of a $70,000 vehicle, you got like $20,000 back. Whoop-de-doo. And yeah, with a home reno project or retrofit project, how much debt is she willing to put Canada in? She literally came out and said right there that Canadians have been telling her that we care about the environment, but we don't believe the carbon tax is the way to do it. And she's saying, okay, we'll put a hold on the carbon tax, so even though you're feeling poor, you won't feel poorer. Even though you're struggling, you won't struggle even more. But when things get better, we're going to increase the carbon tax again. She's no different than Trudeau. She's just female Trudeau.
Premiers, for example, across the provinces have been making that kind of argument, right? Like the carrot versus stick approach. Yeah. To be clear, are you leaning towards the carrot versus your government, which was leaning towards the stick?
Look, I think that when we brought in the price on pollution, it was the right decision at the time. But the world has changed. The economy has changed. People's situations have changed. And so we need to change with the times as well. And part of democracy is listening to your citizens. And when citizens are saying, we care about climate, we care about reducing our emissions, but this policy isn't working for us the way that it was intended, I'm not too proud to change that position, because ultimately democracy is about listening to your people.
But you insisted for so long that it was the opposite. Like, why should they trust you?
Well, because I'm saying right now that I hear you. I mean, if I think...
Whoa, and that is the bomb question right there. That should be asked to every single Liberal. Why should Canadians trust you?
Think about the conversation that we had over the summer when I said what we have to do following the by-elections was listen to people and demonstrate that change. We didn't demonstrate that change, right? And I was pushing for us to demonstrate that change, and now I'm in a position where I can demonstrate that change.
The biggest issue at
So yeah, pretty much, don't worry guys, behind the scenes, I was totally saying something and I had your backs. It's just, I was outvoted. I couldn't do anything, I'm so sorry. Believe me, it's totally true. Even though, you can't prove it.
This moment in time that is facing this country is certainly what's going on with Donald Trump, right? Threats that he keeps doubling down on. He raised the prospect of annexation today in remarks before the World Economic Forum. You said about your opponents in this race, I'm not sure that journalists and central bankers are the kind of people that Donald Trump listens to. Why are you someone that Donald Trump will listen to? And doesn't Ms. Freeland deserve some respect for the way that she navigated that the first time around?
Absolutely. And look, what I was saying there was not a knock against either of them, because I think they're both exceptional candidates. And I think we're really lucky to have, three really good, solid candidates who are vying for the position of leader for the Liberal Party of Canada. What I mean by that is, I don't really think that Donald Trump cares about your CV when he's making these decisions. When a bully asks you for your lunch money, if you give it to them, they don't leave you alone. right? They just come back and shake you down for more. And so what we need is someone who's going to stand up to bullies, someone who's going to stand up for Canadians. And over the last 18 months and before that, I've demonstrated to Canadians in the House of Commons that I can stand up for Canada and for Canadians and against people who are fighting against Canadians, whether it's Pierre Poilievre or other members of the Conservative Party of Canada. I'm tough, I've got chutzpah, and I'm very able to stand up on behalf of Canadians.
What does that mean, though, Ian?
She hasn't really. If you've seen her in question period, all she does is riff off the same talking points. I would not call what she has as chutzpah. And about her saying that kind of dissing Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney, own it. She did diss them. Own it. Don't backtrack. Be like, yeah, I'm their opponent. Of course I'm going to say these sort of things. And be like, he probably doesn't care what bankers and definitely not what media people think. It's not a bad thing to be tough. And I don't know why the Liberals are projecting being tough and being a little bit mean is a poor thing.
I mean, everybody's telling Canadians right now that they're going to stand up for them, and yet day in and day out, we just keep hearing about how the U.S. is planning to railroad us. Like, what does that mean in real terms? Like, what would you do to respond that is different than what we're seeing already, that doesn't appear to be working?
Well, look, I think first of all, everything has to be on the table. And I will say that, the Prime Minister and Cabinet are absolutely doing everything they can right now to have a Team Canada approach and to respond to this potential threat of tariffs. And what I think is vitally important is that we are all on Team Canada and we are all united in this fight. It has to be Canada first, and we cannot have any leader in this country who is going in a different direction. And so, whether it's Premier Danielle Smith or Pierre Poilievre, who are not willing to put everything on the table, they're willing to make carve-outs because they think that that's better for them politically than it is in terms of protecting jobs across this country. We need to be united and we need to be absolutely unified in our stand for Canada.
But does united mean like what the Liberals decide is right for the country is right? Like, can't there be disagreements based on the constituencies that people represent? Like, I get what you're saying about Danielle Smith. I understand the criticism. I also get that Albertans feel like your government has never had their back.
Well, what I know about Albertans is that they are very proud Canadians, and that what they want to do is also defend Canada. And if we are divided as a country, that makes us weaker. And we need to show a strong, united front. We need to be very clear that our country's sovereignty is not up for negotiation. It's not even something that can be on the table because we are a proud and strong people, and that's who we are as Canadians. And we've heard from premiers as diverse as Doug Ford, Andrew Furey, and Wab Kinew, who all come from different political backgrounds, who are willing to put Canada first to protect jobs, be it in the auto industry, in forestry, in agriculture, in steel and aluminum, any industry that we have in Canada. The only premier who's not willing to stand up for Canada is Danielle Smith, and I think that's really shameful.
Just one quick follow-up.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your tiny input on what you think of Albertans. This is what Albertans have against Ottawa, and definitely about these Toronto politicians. Whenever they're asked about, like, don't you understand how Albertans feel about politicians kind of turning their backs on them, all they answer is like, oh, Albertans are proud Canadians and they like sovereignty. They don't mention how hard we work, how about our oil sector, about how much we contribute to equalization, how many jobs we provide Canadians when times are tough, how many people out east come here to work. And then she has the audacity to diss Danielle Smith, who is the one premier who has the actual chutzpah to stand up to these politicians in Ottawa and actually go down herself to the United States to meet Trump herself. It's irritating how Ottawa treats us.
Follow up on the sort of what you would do, and it has to do with a lot of what President Trump was saying today, all about NATO spending. Do you think, if you win and you become prime minister, will you accelerate the timeline to meet 2% beyond 2032?
I think there are things that we can do to meet the 2% faster. So one of the first things that I think we need to have a serious conversation about and actually do is increase the salaries of our armed forces, our personnel. Right now, we do not pay our Canadian Armed Forces sufficiently for the incredible work that they do on our behalf every single day. That's one thing that we should and must do. One of the first things that I would do is appoint a procurement czar to get our procurement in order when it comes to military procurement. It takes us way too long to get the necessary military equipment into the hands of our Canadian Armed Forces. And this is important not just in terms of meeting NATO's 2% commitment target, but also making sure that we are ready for whatever is going to come. I mean, we are living in a very difficult time geopolitically, and I think that being a member of NATO is extremely important, but this Western alliance needs to be ready for whatever may come, and make sure that ultimately what we can do is protect Canada, and that's what our Canadian Armed Forces
So
can
you
do.
would accelerate the timeline by how much?
Well, I'd have to dig more into it, but see how quickly we can do those things. But those are a couple of the things that I want to do.
Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Ms. Gould, thank you very much. Good luck with your candidacy.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, we should pay our military more, and way more than 2% at 2032. There's so much cutting we could do to our budget and move to our military, so much bloat, and we need to do that. Our military sucks. The training of our personnel is amazing. We have the most well-trained troops out there. It's just we don't provide them the necessary tools they need. And we don't pay them what they should be paid. And that's terrible, because these are people who are putting their lives on the line for Canada and willing to make the ultimate risk for Canadians. And yet our government treats them this way. Anyways, what do you think? Do you guys think that Karina Gould will be a good candidate for Liberal leader? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link down below. That would really be appreciated. Other than that, have a good day.